Great.
Hey, look, folks, good afternoon. The past 2 days we've gotten some very good news about the American economy. Just yesterday, shipping carriers, after some discussion, an International Longshoremen Union came to an agreement to keep the ports in the East Coast and the Gulf ports open. We averted what could have become a major crisis for the country, and a tentative agreement which includes record wage increases for dock workers and shows the importance of collective bargaining and represents, I think, critical progress toward a strong contract. I especially want to thank the carriers, the port operators, and the Longshoremen's Union for reaching this agreement at a time when the nation has experienced such terrible...
Who do you think exists less, single-issue pro-Israel Democrats or single-issue pro-Dick Cheney Democrats? Single-issue pro-Dick Cheney Democrats, for sure. Because there's like 3 total pro-Dick Cheney Democrats out there. Not even. It's just Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, so 2. The number is, the actual number I can give you confidently is 2. There are 2 pro-Dick Cheney Democrats out there. Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney. That's it.
Devastation from Hurricane Helene. It was truly a service to the American people for all these parties to come together to respond to our request to keep the ports open. I was determined to avert a crisis at this moment because it's a critical moment. If we didn't do this now, we'd have a real problem. I also want to thank my White House team for the work. They worked around the clock to bring the parties together. But today, we got more incredible news. Although the strength of the American economy it's about the strength of the American economy. New jobs report, as you all know, you've been reporting, created 250,000 jobs in September. The expectation was for 150,000 jobs in September, which has far exceeded that number. Not only the previous 2 months was the previous 2 months was revised up 75,000 jobs. And from the very beginning, we were told time and again that the policies we were pursuing, we'd put forward weren't going to work, make things worse, including some of the other team are still saying they're going to make things worse. But we've proven them wrong. You know, we've told our we were told our American rescue plan was too big and it would crowd out private investment. We proved them wrong, vaccinated a nation and got immediate economic relief to people in need. When I came to office determined to end trickle-down economics and grow the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, I know you're tired of hearing me say that over and over again, but that was the policy, that it remains the policy. Because when you do that, everyone does well. When the middle class grows, the nation's stronger. And the nation's stronger when there's a strong union movement as well. We were told it wouldn't work, but I was also determined to do what was ignored for much too long. Presidents have been authorized since the 30s to be able to spend the money given by Congress to spend the money on hiring American workers and using American product where they were available. And that's what we did. We were told that was going to be a big problem. But all the money I was authorized to spend by the Congress has gone to hiring American workers and using American products. We were told it wasn't going to be. We were told that was going to be a big problem, but it's working. We're also told that our historic laws to invest in America and all Americans would crowd out private sector investment. Well, that was proven wrong too. We've attracted nearly $1 trillion since we've come to office.
By the way, my comment was in response to the standpoint theory argument. That's probably why you're the best commentator on the platform, because you use facts and data to inform your opinions rather than generalize off your experiences, which is what grifters excel at.
Private sector investment.
Dude, can I imagine what it would be like if he stayed in the race, Lamau? Yes, a beautiful prospect for an American future. Okay? Excuse me. In my mind, he's still in the race. That's why I'm writing him in.
From domestic and foreign companies investing in America. In America. Not the stuff of shipping jobs overseas for cheaper labor and bringing back a product to America. We're building it here and sending it overseas. And look at the results. Across the board, unemployment is down to 4.1%. And every month, in fact, that Vice President Harris and I have been in office, we've created jobs every single month. The nation has now created 16 million jobs since I've come to office, more jobs created in a single presidential term than any time in American history. Our GDP shows our economy grew at 10% under my administration. Unemployment reached the lowest level in 50 years. We're also told inflation couldn't come down without massive job losses or sending the economy into economic recession. Once again, outside experts were wrong. Inflation has come down. Wages have gone up faster than prices. Interest rates are down. Record 19 million new business applications have been filed for. The stock market continues to reach new heights. We've got more work to do, though.
Can I write you in? Yeah, if you want.
Keep getting prices down.
I got the same level of chances as the Green Party, so.
Like more affordable housing, extending what I've done for seniors and lowering prescription drug costs by letting Medicare negotiate the prices, make sure that's available to everyone. And by the way, what we've done so far, just when we brought down the prices for seniors under Medicare, it saved the taxpayers billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. Saved the taxpayers billions of dollars. That's important to note because they don't have to pay the exorbitant and irrational prices that these companies are charging. The simple fact is we've gone from economy in crisis to literally having the strongest economy in the world. And but we've got more work to do. We've got more work to do to deal with the things I've just mentioned, and we're going to have to deal with unforeseen cost of what this hurricane is going to cost. It's going to cost a lot of money, and I'm going to probably have to ask the Congress before we leave for more money to deal with some of those problems. But that remains to be seen. I'll take a few questions before I turn it over to you. Pick out people.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Josh.
Thanks again for doing this, Mr. President. Two questions. The first, Florida Senator Marco Rubio described today's jobs report as having fake numbers. What do you make of that, and how worried are you that many Americans are hearing that the jobs numbers aren't real?
Well, look, I'm going to be very careful here. If you notice, anything the MAGA Republicans don't like, they call fake. Anything.
Look.
The job numbers are what the job numbers are. They're real. They're sincere. They're what we are. And by the way, just look at how the EU talks about us, how they like to have an economy like ours. Let's talk about the rest of the world looks at us and what we're doing. So I don't want to get going.
And then secondly, could you clarify some of your comments yesterday with regard to strikes on Iranian oil facilities? What did you mean by them, given some of the reactions we're seeing in the market?
Well, look, the Israelis have not concluded what they're going to do in terms of a strike. That's under discussion. I think if I were in their shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives than striking oil fields.
Good, Wisha.
Thank you, Kareem. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for being here. This week, Senator Chris Murphy said it's certainly a possibility that the Israeli government is not going to sign any diplomatic agreement prior to the election, which is what you have been calling for so long, potentially to try to influence the result. Do you agree?
This is the big one, dude. This answer is phenomenal. And I'm going to give you the Republican version of this as well after.
Do you have any worries that Netanyahu may be trying to influence the election and that's why he has not agreed to a diplomatic solution?
Guys, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Really? No way. You think Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to influence the outcome of this election? That he's in the tank for Donald Trump? How could you make such a wild assertion? After all, Benjamin Netanyahu has, openly recognized that Donald Trump is the most popular politician in Israel, more popular than Joe Biden, and also more popular than Benjamin Netanyahu and any other Israeli politician. Donald Trump has done more for Israel than anyone else, really. And also, beyond that, Benjamin Netanyahu went to his house to kiss the ring. Wow. How anti-Semitic of this reporter to be asking these sorts of questions to Joseph Robinette Brandon. I cannot seem to place my finger on this. I can't understand how we would arrive at this conclusion that I have been screaming from the rooftops for months at this point. You mean to tell me that Benjamin Netanyahu has routinely on Biden for the past 12 months, as Biden has kept saying over and over again that he's just going full tilt, permanent genocide mode, no matter what. It's just weird. How else could we deal with this? How else could we possibly deal with this sovereign nation, our attack dog in the region, that is objectively out of control? Shocked.
No administration has helped Israel more than I have. None. None.
You're dude, you old, monstrous corpse, you dingus, you dumb administration that had Israel more than I have. It's a foreign country, you jack. You're the goddamn American president. Have some respect and decency for the office. These are things that I don't even give a about myself, but you should.
None. And I think Bibi should remember that. And whether he's trying to influence the election or not, I don't know, but I'm not counting on that.
You've said many times recently that you want to speak to him, that you plan
No,
to.
I didn't say plan to. I didn't say want to.
You don't want to?
No, I didn't say that. You're making it sound like I'm seeking and then speaking. I'm assuming when they make the judgment of how they're going to.
This is good. This line of questioning is good. Maybe it'll piss him off, actually, because he's such a personally malicious and vindictive that if they keep hammering on the point that Benjamin Netanyahu is making you look like a clown ass, maybe then he'll change trajectory instead of crying about it behind closed doors and then giving unlimited weapons and trillions of dollars to Israel. Another $50 billion to Israel meme remains to be true. Potentially, maybe that's the angle here. I don't know. Just keep being like, hey, Biden. Another thing I've also mentioned, by the way, was that like Benjamin Netanyahu is going to ruin his legacy over and over again. Maybe they should communicate that to Biden directly if they have opportunity to meet with him. Hey, Biden, you love your legacy. You care about it, right? You want to be known as like the great elder statesman that saved this country from Donald Trump and then was a transitional candidate that allowed for a new American future. Benjamin Netanyahu is going to tank that for you single-handedly if you keep giving unlimited weapons to him to engage in a genocide. Everyone's going to remember he's a genocidal monster who got also made a fool. Donald Trump, at the very least, is like, no, I love the permanent genocide that Israel is doing. That presents at least like some, that at least to the dumbest Americans makes it seem like Donald Trump is the strong man in this relationship and not Benjamin Netanyahu, who routinely has made you look like a asshole.
Going to respond. We will then have a discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for being here. What are you advising the Israelis to do in terms of their retaliation to Iran? And at this point, you still haven't spoken to Netanyahu. Is it fair to say that you have little personal influence over what he decides to do?
No. Look, our team.
So this is great. This is great because like then he has to admit like, no, all the genocidal stuff that he's doing, I'm on board with, which he is, by the way. Just make no mistake. He is not some random dickhead, okay? He is actually personally invested in the permanent genocide, okay? He is, which is why he's letting Benjamin Netanyahu do it, just so you guys understand. He is, however, seemingly doing it in the most like squishy liberal way possible, where they have to like maintain the veneer of rule-based international order. Here, let me explain this to you. For example, makes you really admire all the falsified evidence, expert testimonials that the State Department produces to try and pretend this is all above board, right? The Leahy Law is great because it proudly and smugly declares the U.S. cannot arm human rights abuses and then has a carve-out that's like, unless the State Department says nah, a true microcosm of the liberal rule-based order. Okay? You know a law is a real law when a handful of obscure members of Congress constantly have to try and pass subsequent laws to enforce the original law, a real thing that guides U.S. foreign policy. This person replies to Adam Johnson, says, makes you really admire all the falsified evidence that and expert testimonials that the State Department produces. This is a statement about the rule-based international order and the veneer that like the American government, the song and dance that the American government plays to make it seem like we have some rules, okay? Words cannot begin to describe how important it is to commit to the bit, how central the liberal rules-based order bit is to the United States bureaucratic NGO DOD soft power ecosystem of frustrated humanitarians. It can never die, no matter the evidence to the contrary. It is too big to fail. Once the bit shatters, you have a few million people who wake up and realize they're little more than 2-bit PR instruments, native informant recruiters, and selectively enforcing lawfare dweebs. It will never go away, regardless of how many war crimes the U.S. arms and funds in 4K. Do you understand? That's why I always have that is also why I always have a little bit of frustration when I talk about NGOs. They might be right on the issue of Israel, but they are still playing that role of well, the American government, it's more than just an outsourced State Department vehicle. I promise, these are, and there are genuinely really good people that work at these institutions that do want to help people, and they do marginally move the needle in the right direction. But ultimately, the the vestiges of American empire are going to behave in the ways that churn out the most bloodshed, and therefore the best possible outcomes for the imperial core. Okay, all you're doing at that point is basically operating like a PR guy. You're basically laundering America's reputation by saying, "But look, we got these people. These are the people that are doing the right things." They're even saying it. That's why it falls on deaf ears. They play the exact same role that the United Nations plays, right? They play the exact same role that the UN plays. The UN is like, well, we got rules. Why are we not applying them? And then when you do try to apply those rules, America's like, "F off, suck my." Those rules were not an application in Iraq nor Afghanistan, and those rules are not an application for Israel as well. Israel is an extension of America. That's it. They are there so that the educated liberal thinkers look to those institutions and go, well, some reasonable people are out there. Some reasonable people are just demanding that people listen to reason, right? Well, I guess maybe this is above board. I don't know. America would never do this if it wasn't above board. There's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people that do actually feel this way. The New York Times readers, for example. Okay. The problem is Israel is so glaringly, obviously in violation of human rights. Most people are losing faith in these institutions, even the educated liberals. The older educated liberals are not, because they're firmly committed to the bit. They believe America is, at the end of the day, the best possible version of global dominance you can get. The alternative is far scarier. You got China. Who knows what those guys might do? They're scary. They look different. They sound different. I don't really know their culture. I don't understand it. The alternative is Russia, the USSR, socialism. The alternative is Islamic fundamentalism. I don't want that. I'm scared of that. That's usually the way that people go about it, where they're like, yeah, American empire, they sometimes do evil things, but ultimately it's far better than the alternative, far better than this spooky alternative. That's the way that a lot of people look at this. That's the way that a lot of people look at this situation, not really recognizing that America has beefed up the Islamist fundamentalism in an effort to fight against the USSR back in the day, for example. Anyway, but Having said that, it is pretty funny that they still try to make these specific lawfare carve-outs in the own song and dance that they're playing at a time when most people are no longer believing the song and dance. Do you see what I'm saying? Young Americans have checked out, okay? An entire generation of Americans is lost in terms of believing mainstream media. They are completely checked out because they don't even have access to it for the most part. But beyond that, they're checked out in believing the credibility of these institutions because they didn't do a good enough job of maintaining this song and dance. How the do you bring these people back? How do you bring them back? They made the mistake of running the same exact propaganda that they've run for years and years when there was no alternative to that propaganda, when you had no way of seeing what Palestinians were saying on the ground, the victims of this genocide were saying on the ground. Now with social media, you directly have access to a person who's getting bombed every goddamn week. And you're like, oh my God, this is unimaginable. This is death and devastation. This is death, destruction, and devastation of the highest order. How could we ever let this happen? When that exists, it's quite difficult for CNN to keep having Jonathan Concuncrius, Frankenstein's monster's ugly ass fucking big old head, come in and contextualize why these Palestinian children had to be killed because they're Nazi children or whatever they're saying. That's it. And they haven't been able to pick up the pace on a full-throated propaganda machine that churns out these sorts of biased results. They haven't been able to socially condition people into believing that Israel is the defender of the Western world. It's the first shield against the Western world. There are, of course, some online that, you know, frequent Reddit or some of these other places that already have like existing underlying Islamophobic attitudes, and Israel can capture them. But ultimately, it's a failed endeavor because people can still see the harm that they are causing. Anyway, having said that, however, Biden's response here is really stupid. He's like, I'm the greatest defender of Israel. How dare you say that?
Are in contact 12 hours a day. They're constantly in contact. I've already had my presidential daily brief. We've already had interface between our military, the diplomats. It's in constant contact. They are trying to figure out, it's the high holidays as well. They're not going to make a decision immediately. And so we're going to wait to see when they want to talk.
But over the past few months, they've consistently defied your administration's own.
Like, the media should have been asking this question like 8 months ago, man. What do you mean? How many red lines was a red promise for Benjamin Netanyahu? How many instances has Biden turned around and offered another $8 billion in weapon shipments to Israel over and over and over again?
Advice. So do you believe that the Israelis are going to listen to the advice you're giving them?
What I know is the plan that I put together received the support of the UN Security Council, the vast majority of our allies around the world, as a way to bring this to an end. Look, the Israelis have every...
They didn't ask that question. They know that. They're saying, why has Israel violated that over and over again and made you look like a baboon?
right to respond to the vicious attacks on them, not just from the Iranians, but from everyone from Hezbollah to Houthis to anyway. And but the fact is that they have to be very much more careful about dealing with civilian casualties.
So how should they respond? You expressed concerns about attacks on Iranian oil facilities. How should they respond?
That's between me and them.
All right, we got to move on. Go ahead, Tam.
The election is a month away. One, I'd like to know how you're feeling about how this election is going. And then also, do you have confidence that it will be a free and fair election and that it will be peaceful?
Two separate questions.
Very much.
I'm confident it'll be free and fair. I don't know whether it'll be peaceful. The things that Trump has said and the things that he said last time out when he didn't like the outcome
That's my president, dude. I'm voting for him. If you vote for him, he will win.
of the
Just
election
saying, chat.
were very dangerous. If you notice, I noticed
I gotta pee.
that the vice presidential Republican candidate did not say he'd accept the outcome of the election. They haven't even accepted the outcome of the last election. So I'm concerned about what they're going to do.
Are you making any preparations, getting security briefings related to domestic security?
I always get those
All right,
briefings.
we got to move on. Go ahead, Keila, and then we have to do a couple more.
Hi, Mr. President. When are you considering imposing sanctions on Iran, and would you include oil in those sanctions?
That's under consideration right now, the whole thing. I'm not going to discuss that out loud.
And just on your comments yesterday on the port strike, you said, by the grace of God, it's going to hold. Is there any reason you think that this
Well, there's more to
temporary
do. A
suspension?
month from now, there's more to do in terms of everything from the whole notion of mechanization of the ports and the like. There's more to resolve.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Thanks, Green. Thank you, Mr. President. Last night you said that there's still a lot to do to avoid an all-out war in the Middle East. I mean, firstly, aren't we pretty close to that definition already? And secondly, what can you really do to stop that happening?
There's a lot we are doing. The main thing we can do is try to rally the rest of the world and our allies into participating like the French are in Lebanon and other places to tamp this down. And but when you have proxies as irrational as Hezbollah and the Houthis, and it's a hard thing to determine.
Got to lose.
I gotta go, kid.
I know. Please tell me I gotta go.
I said I'd take a couple questions. Participating like the
Wait,
All-out war in the Middle East. I mean, firstly, aren't we pretty close to that definition already? And secondly, what can you really do to stop that happening?
There's a lot we are doing. The main thing we can do is try to rally the rest of the world and our allies into participating, like the French are in Lebanon and other places, to tamp this down. And but when you have proxies as irrational as Hezbollah and the Houthis, and it's a hard thing to determine.
Got to lose.
I gotta go, kid.
I know. Please tell me I gotta go.
I said I'd take a couple questions.
All right, you're the last.
I think she's increasing her credibility with it.
Take some more.
Toulouse, you're going to be the last one.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for spending some time here with us. There have obviously been a number of crises that the country has been facing over the past several days, with the hurricane, with the port strike, with the situation in the Middle East. Can you talk about how your vice president, who is running for the presidency, has worked on these crises and what role she has played over the past several days?
Well, I'm in constant contact with her. She's aware we're singing from the same song sheet. She helped pass all the laws that are being employed.
Do you think Bibi's kind of blackmailing the Dems for more dollars and weapons by expressing support for the Republicans, or is he really in it for Trump or for both? No, Benjamin Netanyahu is in the tank for Trump. It doesn't matter because he knows fully that like the influence that like the pro-Israeli lobby and its prominent influence on American politics is already set. So neither party is going to swing away from that. Came to check on my dad, and he's literally doing the meme. That's hilarious. every Lebanese dad. That's hilarious. This is like every Arab father and unc, dude. I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu has to blackmail anybody.
Now, she was a major player in everything we've done, including passage of legislation which we were told we could never pass. And so she's been, and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all the things we're doing.
Mr. President, did you ever think about it? Totally up to you, sir. All right, go ahead. Yeah, Nandita, sir, no, sir. I didn't call on you, sir. Nandita.
Thank you.
Nandita, go, Nandita.
Mr. President.
Pope Francis calling for a day of prayer and fasting.
Prayer and fasting this Monday, October 7th. Your reaction, sir?
I will prayer and fast.
Okay, that's acceptable to you in terms of Israel's response. How long are you okay with Israel bombing Lebanon? What is acceptable to you?
All right,
Get out of here. Asking a question like that. Get out of here, libtard. What the you mean? Get out of here. Come on.
That's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir.
What a ridiculous question. Oh, what are you, a journalist? What are you, a journalist? Get the out of here. Finish the video. He says he's back in the race. I don't care, dude. Yeah, okay, we got it. He said he's back in the race. All right, let's watch this.
Decision on long-range weapons?
Do you want to reconsider dropping out of the race?
I'm back in.
He's back in. He's back in the race. We're riding with Brandon.